Welcome back, Wayfarer. I'm so glad you could join us tonight. It's a privilege to accompany you on our journey, and I hope you find a deep and restful sleep when we reach our destination. You have found your way to another quiet sanctuary, and you are very welcome here. Before we step out into the evening, take a moment to settle. Let the weight of your body sink into the mattress. Feel the support of the bed beneath you, a solid foundation holding you steady. Take a deep, slow breath in, filling your lungs with the coolness of the night. And as you exhale, let the tension in your jaw, your neck, and your hands dissipate and flow from your body. You are safe. You are grounded. You are home. Tonight, our path turns away from the high limestone plateau of Stow-on-the-Wold. We have rested by the yew-framed doors of St. Edward's, and now the road beckons us north and down. We are leaving the High Wold behind, descending from the windy ridges toward the lush, sheltered valleys of South Warwickshire. Our destination is Shipston-on-Stour, the sheep-wash town, where the landscape shifts from the golden stone of the heights to the deep, iron-rich earth of the Vale of the Red Horse. It is a journey of gravity, following the natural tilt of the land as it spills toward the river. As you step out from the shelter of the town's honey-coloured buildings, the first thing you notice is the sound. Behind you, the Stow wind still whistles through the narrow alleys and over the market cross. But ahead, the air feels different, heavier, stiller, and expectant. The evening light is a pale, bruised lavender, casting long, elegant shadows across the road. You adjust your pack, feeling the familiar, reassuring weight of your gear against your spine. Your felted wool cloak, now dry and stiff from its rest, rustles with a deep, organic hush as you move. The path beneath your boots is the old coach road, a wide, descending artery that has carried travellers for centuries. Here, at the very edge of the plateau, the ground is still composed of Oolitic limestone, those tiny fossilized egg stones that give the Cotswolds their shimmer. But as you begin the first mile of the descent, you notice the stones beneath your feet changing. The pale sandy cream of the wold is beginning to be marbled with veins of a darker, ruddier hue. This is the first sign of the ironstone, a heavier, rust-coloured rock that signals our entry into a new geological kingdom. As the road begins its long, slow tilt, you enter the dip slope of the escarpment. The air here is no longer sharp and dry. It carries the rising damp of the valleys below. Breathe in deeply. You can smell the change in the vegetation. The dry, alkaline scent of wild thyme is being replaced by the thick, sweet aroma of damp bracken and elderflower. There is a metallic, earthy tang to the air, the scent of the iron-rich clay being churned by the evening dew. It is a green smell, deep and fertile, a stark contrast to the thin mineral air of the heights. To your left and right, the landscape is beginning to fold. The vast, oceanic swells of the High Wold are breaking into smaller, more intimate hills and hidden combes. You pass a stand of ancient hawthorns, their gnarled branches reaching out like silvered bones in the twilight. Unlike the stunted trees on the plateau, these are tall and laden with blossom, great frothy clouds of white that smell faintly of almonds. As you walk past, a stray breeze shakes the branches, and a flurry of white petals falls like summer snow, landing on your wool hood with a sound so soft it is more of a feeling than a noise. A gentle, rhythmic pat that accompanies you as you descend further into the deepening blue of the valley. The road continues its steady downward pull, a relentless incline that asks for a slower, more deliberate gait as we leave the limestone plateau of Stow behind. As you walk, you are approaching a significant junction in the Earth's history, a place where the landscape itself seems to hold its breath. You are reaching the point where your path intersects once again with the Fosse Way. Here, the transition from the High Wold is not merely a change in elevation. It is a crossing of a 1,000-year-old boundary, a seam in the fabric of England. This was the jagged edge of the Roman Empire's early frontier in Britain, a line drawn with iron-willed straightness across the landscape that separated the Romanized lowlands from the wilder limestone uplands. As you step onto the firm, straight spine of the Roman road, the sound of your boots undergoes a profound transformation. The soft, crunching thud of the limestone brash is replaced by a more resonant, solid and deep-seated strike against the ancient, buried foundations. Under the veneer of damp grass, you can sense the layers of the statumen and the rudus, the heavy cobbles and broken stones laid down by Roman legions nearly 20 centuries ago. Stop for a moment at this intersection. Close your eyes and listen to the silence of the fosse. It is not a hollow silence, but one layered with the ghost echoes of history. You can almost feel the vibration of the road beneath the soles of your boots, a testament to an engineering feat that has outlasted empires. The Roman engineers didn't just build a path. They built a monument to order, slicing through the Oolitic limestone of the hills to ensure that communication and commerce could flow unhindered. As you stand here, the wind from the wold catches the heavy hem of your felted wool cloak, creating a rhythmic flap snap that sounds like a distant drum. The air is cooling rapidly now, and the scent of the road is a curious mix of wet flint, old dust, and the sharp metallic tang of the limestone being ground down by time. It is a mineral smell, cold and ancient, that seems to fill your lungs with the very essence of the earth's bones. Turning away from the Roman line, the road plunges deeper into the Vale of the Red Horse. You are entering a landscape steeped in both legend and geology. A fertile basin, named for the great hill figures that were once carved into the iron-rich escarpment near Tyso. Though the grass has long since reclaimed those colossal galloping horses, the earth here remembers them with every clod of soil. Look at the banks of the lane as you descend. The geography is shifting beneath your feet. The soil has lost the pale, chalky, honey gold look of the heights. It is now a deep, bruised and vibrant crimson, the colour of rust, dried ochre, and ancient blood. This is the Blue Lias siltstone, a heavy, ferriferous earth that gives the local architecture and the very fields their distinctive warm glow. The scent here is profoundly metallic. It is the smell of wet iron and cold clay, a mineral tang that seems to coat the back of your throat as you breathe in the thickening night air. Reach out your hand and brush the surface of a nearby bank where the earth has been exposed. The soil feels heavy, slick, and incredibly dense between your fingers. It doesn't crumble like the limestone brash. It clings, a dark and fertile mud that tells of a land that has supported life for millennia. The transition is sensory and total. The expansive wind-swept light of the plateau is being swallowed by the rising shadows of the valley. The horizon is no longer a distant silver line. It is framed by the dark, rolling silhouettes of the Warwickshire hills. You feel a sense of being tucked in, as if the Vale is rising up to meet you, offering a sheltered sanctuary after the exposed trek across the High Wold. The rhythm of your walk is now a slow, melodic squelch tap, a song of red clay and Roman stone that carries you further into the gathering blue of the evening. As you leave the straight, haunting influence of the Fosse Way behind, the road begins to twist and curve, following the ancient organic contours of the valley floor. The landscape feels as though it is wrapping itself around you. The wide, open vistas of the High Wold are gone, replaced by the towering shadowed presence of ancient hedgerows that rise up on either side of the lane. These are not the neat, clipped hedges of the town. They are wild, tangled tapestries of hawthorn, blackthorn, and elder, their branches interlaced in a chaotic, protective embrace. As you walk, reach out and let your gloved fingers trail along the damp leaves. The texture is a mixture of waxy smoothness and the sharp, brittle snap of dry twigs. The sound is a delicate rustle shush that follows the movement of your hand, a small, intimate noise that feels amplified in the quiet of the descending evening. The air here is noticeably warmer, trapped by the vegetation and the rising slopes of the Vale, and it carries the heavy, intoxicating scent of damp earth and the sweet, slightly fermented aroma of last year's leaf litter. Soon, the first outliers of Shipston-on-Stour begin to appear through the gloom. You are entering a village that feels as though it has been carved directly out of the clay you have been treading. Notice the immediate shift in the visual weight of the buildings. In the heights of Stow, the stone was light, porous, and golden. But here, the architecture is grounded in the dark, sturdy minerals of the lowlands. You pass a long, low garden wall constructed of Blue Lias limestone. In the fading light, the stone doesn't glow. It recedes, a deep, cool slate grey that looks almost like solidified water. The stones are thin and flat, stacked with a rhythmic precision that creates a pattern of horizontal shadows. Run your palm across the top of the wall. The stone is smooth, cold, and holds the moisture of the mist in the fine, shimmering film. It feels dense and unyielding, a sober companion to the ruddier, more porous ironstone blocks that form the corners and lintels of nearby cottages. As you move deeper into the hamlet, the introduction of red bricks marks a total departure from the upland world. These are bricks fired in local kilns from the very red horse clay of the Vale. They are not the uniform, machine-made bricks of the modern era, but hand-moulded blocks with softened edges and subtle variations in hue, from a pale, dusty rose to a deep, charred plum. The texture of the brick is rough and sandy, and as you pass a cottage built right up to the edge of the lane, you can smell the faint, lingering scent of baked earth and old mortar. The windows of these dwellings are small and tucked beneath heavy, overhanging eaves of thatch or slate, reflecting the silver-grey sky like quiet, watchful eyes. There is a profound sense of domesticity here, a feeling of tucking in. You hear the muffled, domestic sounds of the village, the distant clink of a latch, the soft bark of a dog from behind a heavy timber door, and the rhythmic, low-frequency thrum of a wood stove beginning to draw. The scent of wood smoke is now the dominant note in the air. It is a thick, blue aroma that hangs low in the valley, smelling of seasoned oak and the spicy, sweet scent of applewood. It mingles with the smell of the damp thatch, a heavy, cereal-like aroma that reminds you of the harvest. You find yourself shortening your stride, matching the slow, sleepy pulse of the village. The clack thump of your boots on the narrowing road echoes off the close-set walls, creating a private rhythmic dialogue between you and the stone. You are no longer a traveller on a grand Roman artery. You are a quiet observer passing through a sanctuary of red clay and grey stone. Every step forward is a deeper immersion into the stillness of the Vale, a slow-motion journey toward the murmuring banks of the Stour that wait just beyond the next rise. You feel the weight of the day's miles settling into your muscles, but it is a good weight, a groundedness that matches the sturdy, ancient character of the village around you. As you leave the last huddled cottages of Shipston-on-Stour behind, the road narrows even further, becoming a sunken lane that feels like a corridor through time. The high banks on either side are crowned with ancient leaning ash and sycamore, their roots exposed like the gnarled knuckles of a giant, gripping the red clay to keep from sliding into the path. In this holloway, the air is thick and cool, smelling strongly of wild garlic and damp moss. The sound of the wind, which was a constant companion on the High Wold, is completely absent here, replaced by the intimate microscopic sounds of the hedgerow. You can hear the drip of water droplets falling from the overarching canopy onto the broad leaves of burdock below, a liquid percussion that marks your slow progress through the shadows. The light has faded to a deep charcoal blue, and the world feels as though it has been wrapped in a heavy velvet blanket of silence. You are now traversing the floor of the Stour Valley, a landscape shaped by the patient, persistent movement of water over millions of years. The geology beneath your boots has shifted once again. The firm limestone and gritty ironstone have given way to the lower lias clays, a heavy, tenacious blue-grey earth that formed in the deep, stagnant lagoons of the Jurassic period. This clay is the architect of the valley's character, creating the lush water meadows and the winding course of the river itself. As you walk, the sound of your boots on the harder ground begins to soften into a rhythmic, cushioned thud squish. The mud here is different from the gritty brash of the heights. It is smooth, almost buttery in texture, and it clings to the soles of your boots with a gentle suctioning sound. Reach down and touch a handful of the earth from a fresh molehill on the verge. It is cold, damp, and incredibly dense, smelling of ancient minerals and deep, undisturbed rot. It is the smell of the very foundation of the Shire, a heavy, honest scent that anchors you to the path. The history of this stretch of road is one of labour and transit. For centuries, this path was a vital link for the pack horse trains that carried the Cotswold lion fleeces from the high pastures down to the river for washing and processing. Imagine the sound of 20 or 30 horses, their bells jingling in the twilight, their hooves churning this very clay into a deep red mire. You can almost feel the presence of those vanished travellers in the stillness of the lane. To your right, you notice an old milestone, a weathered pillar of local stone half swallowed by ivy and brambles. Lean in close and run your fingers over the carved letters, now worn and rounded by centuries of rain. The stone feels rough and pitted, cold to the touch, and encrusted with the dry, crusty texture of silver-grey lichen. It is a silent witness to the millions of footsteps that have preceded yours, a marker of human intent in the middle of the wild, encroaching woods. The scent of the night is shifting as you move closer to the unseen river. The heavy wood smoke of Stretton is fading, replaced by the cool vegetable aroma of the riverbanks, the smell of watermint, crushed reeds, and the sharp, ozone-like scent of moving water. There is a new sound beginning to filter through the trees, a low-frequency murmur that grows steadily with every step. It isn't the roar of the weir you left at the fuller's mill, but a gentle, rhythmic sound as the river Stour winds its way through the alders. You adjust your cloak, feeling the dampness of the valley air settling on the wool fibres, turning the grey fabric into a darker, heavier weight. Your breathing is slow and steady, a white mist in the cool air, as you prepare to leave the shelter of the Holloway and step out into the wide, moonlit meadows that border the sheep-washed town of Shipston. The sense of arrival is beginning to stir in your chest, a quiet anticipation of the bridge and the town's historic heart. As you emerge from the close, shadowed embrace of the Holloway, the world suddenly expands into the wide, moonlit expanse of the Stour meadows. The transition is a physical release. The air, though damper and cooler here on the valley floor, feels vast and unburdened by the weight of the overhanging trees. Before you, the landscape is a silver-washed tapestry of long, swaying grasses and the dark, rhythmic silhouettes of pollarded willows that trace the winding spine of the river. The ground beneath your boots has surrendered its firm, stony character entirely, becoming a soft, springy velvet of alluvial silt and lush turf. With every step, you feel the earth give slightly, a gentle hydraulic resistance that cushions your weight and slows your pace to a rhythmic, meditative crawl. The sound of your movement has shifted from a strike to a hush, a whisper of leather against grass that seems to be absorbed by the deep, damp soil of the water meadows. To your right, the River Stour makes its presence known not with a roar, but with a persistent liquid babble as it navigates a shallow bend. This is a river of purpose, its name derived from the Old English word for strong or stiff, referring to its steady, unyielding flow. For centuries, this water was the lifeblood of the sheep-wash town, the final destination for the dust-covered flocks descending from the High Wold. You can almost see them in the mind's eye. Thousands of Cotswold lions being driven into these very shallows to scour the lanolin and hillside grit from their fleeces before the shearing began. The scent here is a complex layering of the river's breath. It is the sharp green aroma of crushed watermint, the metallic tang of cold, silt-heavy water, and the bittersweet, earthy smell of sedge and willow bark. It is an ancient, refreshing scent that cuts through the lingering wood smoke of the villages, a reminder of the raw, cleansing power of the natural world. As you walk parallel to the bank, you pass a massive, solitary oak that has stood sentinel over this meadow for perhaps 300 years. Its trunk is a chaotic map of deep ridges and silver-grey furrows, a landscape of bark that feels as rough and unyielding as the limestone of the heights. Reach out and press your palm against the wood. It is cold and damp, and you can feel the vibrating hum of the wind in the high branches being channeled down into the earth. The sound in the meadow is a layered symphony of the night. The rhythmic creak and sigh of the willow limbs, the distant, lonely hoot of a tawny owl from the holloway behind you, and the constant percussion of the river stones being rolled by the current. It is a soundscape that demands stillness, a slow motion immersion into the great quiet of the valley. The light of the moon reflects off the surface of the Stour in long, shivering ribbons of mercury, illuminating the riffles and runs of the stream. You notice the detail of the riverbank, the way the dark, heavy clay has been carved into miniature cliffs by the winter floods, revealing the tangled orange roots of the alder trees. The moisture in the air is turning into a true valley mist now. A white, ghostly fleece that clings to the tops of the reeds and swirls around your knees as you move. It feels cool and wet against the skin of your face, a soft, damp kiss from the river. You pull your hood slightly further forward, the felted wool absorbing the mist until it smells of the river and the rain once more. You are no longer just a traveller passing through. You are becoming a part of the meadow's nocturnal rhythm, a slow-moving shadow in a world of water, wood, and silver light, drifting ever closer to the stone arches of the town's entrance. The mist continues to thicken as you approach the outskirts of the town, turning the world into a series of soft charcoal and silver vignettes. The springy turf of the water meadows eventually gives way to a more structured path, and soon you find yourself standing before the imposing stone silhouette of the Honington Bridge. This is the historic gateway to Shipston-on-Stour, a sturdy multi-arched span that has withstood the temperamental floods of the river for centuries. As you step onto the bridge, the silence of the grass is replaced by a hollow, resonant clack of your boots against the heavy limestone flagstones. The sound echoes off the stone parapets, a sharp, rhythmic reminder of the transition from the wild, organic valley floor to the engineered heart of the settlement. Stop for a moment in the center of the span and lean your weight against the cool, damp masonry of the wall. The stone is pitted and weathered, its surface a rough topography of lichen and ancient mason's marks. Below you, the Stour is constricted by the narrow arches, and its voice changes from a gentle babble to a deep, churning thrum. The sound is visceral, a low-frequency vibration that you can feel in the soles of your feet through the heavy stone. In the moonlight, the water beneath the bridge looks like liquid obsidian, broken only by the pale, frothy V of the current as it splits around the cutwaters. The scent here is intensely watery and mineral. The smell of wet lime, cold moss, and the dark, peaty aroma of the riverbed. It is a refreshing, clean scent that seems to wash away the last traces of the iron-red dust from the Vale. You are standing at the very point where the High Wold finally pays its tribute to the lowlands. The water you see here began its journey as rain on the limestone heights of Stow, trickling through the Oolitic brash until it gathered enough strength to carve this valley. Looking toward the town, the first houses of Shipston rise up from the riverbank like dark, sleeping giants. Here, the architecture is a fascinating dialogue between the two worlds you have traversed. You see the grander 3-story townhouses built from the warm, golden Cotswold stone, their classic proportions reflecting the immense wealth brought in by the wool trade. These were the homes of the woolmen, the merchants who transformed the local white gold into the fine fabrics of Europe. But interspersed with these are the sturdier, humbler dwellings made of deep red Warwickshire brick and the sombre blue-grey Lias stone. The scent of the town begins to drift toward you across the water, a complex tapestry of wood smoke, damp soot, and the faint, savoury aroma of roasting grain from a nearby malt house. It is a busy smell, even in the dead of night, suggesting a place of industry at rest. The bridge itself is a monument to the town's namesake, the sheep wash. For hundreds of years, the riverbanks just below this bridge were the site of the annual washing of the flocks. You can almost hear the phantom sounds of the past, the frantic bleating of the Cotswold lions, the splashes of the heavy fleeces hitting the water, and the rhythmic shush, shush of the shepherds scrubbing the wool with long wooden poles. The lanolin would have turned the river white in great frothy streaks. Now there is only the steady hypnotic slap of the water against the starlings and the distant rhythmic clink of a loose shutter somewhere in the town. You feel the cool dampness of the bridge's stone soaking into the sleeves of your cloak, a heavy, cold weight that reminds you of the night's depth. You push off from the parapet, and the thud of your stride resuming its steady pace as you move off the bridge and toward the narrow, winding throat of the high street, where the shadows of the town wait to welcome you into their silence. As you leave the resonant stone of the bridge behind, the town of Shipston-on-Stour gathers you into its narrow, winding embrace. The high street is a canyon of shadows where the grand 3-story facades of the Georgian wool merchants' houses lean toward one another, their limestone faces muted to a soft, ethereal silver in the moonlight. The sound of your journey has changed one final time. The clack of your boots on the pavement is sharp and crisp, echoing off the close-set walls of red brick and ironstone. It is a rhythmic sound that marks the end of the great descent. You pass an old coaching inn, its heavy timber gates barred for the night, but from beneath the door the scent of dying embers and seasoned oak drifts out, a warm, dry aroma that speaks of safety and the end of the road. The town is asleep, a collective stillness that feels like a physical weight pressing down on the rooftops and the quiet, cobbled alleyways. You find your way to a small, secluded courtyard, tucked away from the main thoroughfare, where a single gnarled wisteria vine climbs the wall of a sturdy limestone cottage. Here, the air is perfectly still, sheltered from the river mist and the lingering wind of the wolds. You reach up and pull back your hood, feeling the cool air finally meet your skin, a refreshing contrast to the trapped heat of the felted wool. The weight of your pack is released from your shoulders with a soft thud, and for the first time in hours, you are truly still. Take a deep, slow breath of the night air. It is clean, quiet, and carries the faint metallic scent of the river you just crossed. The journey from the heights of Stow is complete. The miles of Roman stone, red clay, and water meadows have all led to this moment of absolute, unburdened rest. Your muscles feel heavy, filled with the good tired of the long-distance traveller. A grounded sensation that pulls you toward the earth. The sounds of the town are fading into a singular distant hum. The rhythmic drip of a leaking gutter and the faint sigh of the wind in the high gables and the low-frequency murmur of the Stour are all merging into a soft, grey blur of white noise. You settle into your final resting place for the night, the support beneath you feeling as solid and unyielding as the foundations of the Honington Bridge. Close your eyes, Wayfarer. Let the images of the day, the golden tower of St. Edward's, the red banks of the Vale, and the silver-lit ripples of the river drift behind your eyelids like fading watercolors. There is no more road to walk tonight. There are no more hills to descend. You have arrived at the water's edge, and the world is quiet. Your breathing is now the only rhythm left. A slow, steady tide that matches the pulse of the sleeping town. The darkness is a warm, protective cloak, shielding you from the world and the miles yet to come. The Wayfarer's rest is not just a place, but a state of being. A deep, undisturbed sanctuary where the road ends and sleep begins. You are safe. You are warm. You are home in the heart of the valley. Let the silence of the Stour carry you away, drifting down the slow current of the night into a dreamless, perfect peace. Good night, Wayfarer. Sleep well. Sleep deep. The road will be there when you wake, but for now, there is only the rest.